Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Trustees meeting to order on Tuesday, April 17th at approximately 6 p.m. Would you please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Baker.
Here.
Belts.
Here.
Tanaco.
Here.
Burdos.
Here.
Duffy.
Here.
Lino.
Here.
And do I call Kathy? Is this her?
Is Kathy here?
No.
No. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes as published.
So move. Second.
Question.
Please.
We had some comments and correspondence about the constitutional amendment, and it's not on our agenda.
When we got down to item number 18 tonight, I was going to have that discussion.
Okay, excellent.
That will allow for discussion of it.
Thank you.
Okay, the minutes. Any other questions, comments on the minutes?
Good to me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? New board business items. Presentation of resolution number 377-041718, thanking and recognizing Kathy Enquist for her service on the Board of Trustees. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
I will read the resolution since Kathy is not here. Expression of thanks and appreciation to Kathy Enquist. Whereas Kathy Enquist has served as a trustee for the Village of Sister Bay since 2014, and whereas during her tenure on the village board, Kathy served on the Administration and Benefits Oversight Committee, the Door County Coastal Byways Commission, the Sister Bay Historical Society Board of Directors, the Library Commission, the Personnel Committee, the SBAA Board of Directors, and the Youth Center Board, and also made an excellent Easter Bunny. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sister Bay, assembled the 17th day of April 2018, in their own right on behalf of all citizens of the village, does hereby extend to Kathy Enquist our sincere thanks and appreciation for a job well done. We wish you the best of luck in all your future endeavors. And so we have a resolution that we will present to her, and we will also be presenting her with a nice plaque. Okay. And the plaque, of course, reads, presented to Kathy Enquist, thank you for your years of service as a trustee. What a beautiful world it would be if people had hearts like dogs.
Did you come up with that, Janelle?
Very nice.
So we will present that to her at our earliest convenience. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Administering the oath of office to the newly elected trustees. Denise Berto, Pat Duffy, Tom Zotchke, are the deputy village clerk.
Okay, I would like to request that Denise and Pat and Rob all stand and raise your right hands, please. The undersigned, who have been elected to the office of trustee in and for the Village of Sister Bay, Door County, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear or affirm that he or she will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of his or her abilities. Please say yes.
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 You're sworn in. You
Painless.
could please sign that. You could pass that down to Pat, please. And this one goes to. Thank you.
Okay, now that that's official, we'll go back up to comments and correspondence and finish that.
I was wondering.
Thank you.
Comments. Does anybody in the audience care to make a comment about a non-agenda item? Correspondence. There were a couple pieces of correspondence in your package. Is there any additional correspondence you wish to add?
No?
There's the correspondence that was received there.
Does
That's
everybody,
correspondence, yeah.
does everybody have this?
Pardon?
Does everybody have this?
Yes.
Okay. And then there was the correspondence from Steve Thomas which was passed out tonight, this pack.
And there's also a proclamation about Municipal Treasurers Week, Appreciation Week.
Would you like to read that?
Sure. Okay, there's a proclamation from the Office of the Governor which says, whereas the Office of the Municipal Treasurer is a time-honored and vital part of local government that impacts the day-to-day life of citizens throughout the state, and whereas the municipal treasurers provide the necessary financial information to governing bodies and agencies at the local, county, and state levels, and whereas the municipal treasurers administer the procedures and keep the financial records that allow governing bodies to carry out their public function efficiently and competently, and whereas all municipal treasurers are the official custodians responsible for proper management and investment of public funds, and whereas the 1,853 municipal treasurers and the 72 county treasurers work together to collect all property taxes for their own municipalities and counties, as well as their local schools, technical colleges, and the states. And whereas municipal treasurers continually strive to improve the administration of the responsibilities of the office of the municipal treasurer through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and conferences across Wisconsin. Now therefore, I, Scott Walker, Governor of the State of Wisconsin, do hereby proclaim April 15th to 21st, 2018 as Municipal Treasurers Appreciation Week throughout the state of Wisconsin, and I commend this observance to all our citizens. So I would like to say thank you to Tasha for all her work.
Thank you, Tasha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
There's one other piece of correspondence after that, page 11.
We will leave that there. We won't publicly discuss that,
Okay,
which we'll get to.
okay,
We will, but we won't.
okay.
It'll make sense in a moment, I hope. What is this here? It's not on here.
That's done already. You want to go to page 15?
I know, I'm just wondering why.
That was the lead
Got it.
into the,
Got it, okay. We're going to go to item number 3. Discussion regarding the recommendation from the Plan Commission, the Village Board approved the ordinance number 258-041718, which amends 66.0320A27 and 66.0322A17 and 66.0323A21 of the zoning code in such fashion that condominium hotels, motels, and/or hotel-motel condominiums are considered permitted uses in the B1, B2, and B3 districts. Amend 66.2100 of the zoning code in such fashion that definitions are provided for condominium hotels, motels, and hotel-motel condominiums. Amend 66.0322H1 and 66.0323H1 of the zoning code with respect to mixed-use developments, and delete 66.0322H2 and 66.0323H2 of the zoning code in their entirety. Consider a motion for action if appropriate. I'm certain you can explain this to us, right?
well, in the past, issues have arisen with the definition of condominium hotels and motels or hotel-motel condominiums. So the Plan Commission has recommended that the ordinance, which is included in the packets, be approved. There were also some discussion at the last meeting about workforce housing in the B2 transition district, but that isn't included in these documents. Dave mentioned all the sections of the zoning code which will be affected, and so the ordinance itself is in the packets.
Does the Plan Commission want to make any further comments?
No, I think we thoroughly discussed.
Would somebody from the Plan Commission like to make a motion?
Okay. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead, Chad.
Well, I'd like, I won't even try to read the mixed use in the 50%.
Okay, before.
Well, we'll make the motion
Make
first.
a motion
Yeah.
first, then we'll-
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Chad?
Yes, thank you. 50%, which, I mean, I agree with in premise, but is this taking into account going 3 stories? Because if you go 3 stories and the building is the same size, the second and third floor only makes sense probably to be residential. Commercial usually doesn't do well on a second floor, and therefore, it might hinder somebody from doing something, or was that a thought in your heads, or how did you guys think through that part of it?
It was brought up by somebody at the public hearing that night about what that would mean, and would the 50% then mean that we'd only have 2-story buildings in downtown? I don't know that the Plan Commission truly responded to that. It certainly was not the intention. I understood the question at that time. But there wasn't a whole lot of debate on that.
Okay.
Well, and couldn't you see, I mean, even you go to Appleton or Green Bay, 3- and 4-story buildings, the second and third floor might be a doctor's office, an attorney, an accountant.
It could be, I mean, I'm just being more of a devil's advocate or thinking this through. Just in general, we want to have mixed use downtown. We want to keep the first level commercial. We're fine with having the upstairs residential. I mean, I think the building across from the beach would not have been able to be built by this because of the square footage of the building. Way more than 50% of it is in residential. So we're just allowing that to happen, and now we're completely changing what could happen.
I think we're
Right?
changing.
I mean, if I'm reading this right, maybe I'm reading it wrong.
We were trying to firm up some of the intent and the direction from the Plan Commission in the past, and also some things that the village board wanted to see done, and so we're trying to just pull everything tighter, become more clear on some of those issues.
I know you are, and I agree with you. I'm not trying to.
I know that.
But if that building wouldn't have qualified, correct? Because of the square footage of it, I mean, those.
Probably.
So,
Yes.
okay, so.
That took place before I was back on the
Yeah,
board,
yeah.
so.
But I'm just
Yeah.
to clarify that we're just moving away from, which is fine. I mean, you know me, I want commercial downtown. But if we're gonna go 3 stories, it's just, that building may not happen again, which many people might be happy with, so just throwing it out there.
Anybody else?
Well, that's an interesting point. Is there room for somebody coming for a conditional permit or a variance if they said, hey, I see the top floor, penthouse, residential, whatever, but I like mixed use on the first 2 floors, and
As long as it's 50/50, according to what's being presented here tonight, it doesn't matter.
okay, so part of it could.
So
in
You
that-
know, you
in that
could-
case,
So
maybe-
vertically, it could be either way, right?
Yeah.
If you wanted to go along Chad's thinking with 3-story buildings downtown, you would have to amend what's in front of us tonight to say that first floor, is mandatory,
Yeah.
commercial, transient, whatever, and what goes on the floors above that,
I
you
would
don't
like-
care.
I would like to see that amendment. I would. I mean, I would prefer, the 50/50, I could see where development would like that. I mean, I personally would prefer no residential on the first floor anywhere downtown at this point. But I don't want to deter something from possibly being a positive thing, because it doesn't.
Because it
feasible.
limits?
Because of the limits. But if we could be worded where, yeah, if you go 3 stories, as long as 100% of the downstairs is commercial, you can maybe have a waiver, or maybe, I don't know, it's just a thought. And I know it can always be changed again, but.
I think it's something that might be worth revisiting in the future. Because the whole focus of this is to make sure that downtown stays commercial.
Yeah, and I agree,
And
yeah.
I think that it probably swung too far the other way
Mhm.
with where it was, and now we're trying to get it back here, and
Yeah,
people can come to the Plan Commission with good ideas at any time.
yeah,
We're open to it.
all right.
That doesn't mean, that you can't make a motion to amend
Yeah,
your
no, I
your
like
thought
where you guys are
process.
going, it's just thinking it through. Cool.
Okay, so you don't want to make a motion to amend at this point?
No, because I think Nate's correct, if something's gonna make sense, and as long as this isn't gonna be if there is a project, I mean, I think we're all in agreement, most of us agree that we wanna preserve commercial in that little area that is possible. As long as there's an opportunity for somebody to come and if they come to a Janelle and if they, or whoever, and say, hey, I have this idea, is this possible, at least they're not just said, no, the code says it's not.
I mean, it's written in stone until we unwrite
So,
it.
yeah, exactly. Okay.
And, following up on Nate's comment, if, a member of the Plan Commission, Nate, if you feel that, we should readdress this, maybe, we put it in Janelle's tickler file and, deal with it in 6 months, and we'll talk about it in depth. There's a lot on Plan Commission's plate right now.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the Plan Commission, some of the choices we make and decisions we make are based on what comes to us. And if we see this, wow, this came to us, it didn't work, we really should change it. So I think 6 months from now, it'd be good to review to see what happened, because as I'll always reference the sandwich board signs, there's always unintended consequences.
Yes.
And I will never forget the sandwich board.
Steel trap over there.
Can you do that for us, Janelle? Sure. Thank you.
That's an easy one.
Any other questions or discussion on? If not, we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried?
So it's approved as presented, so everything passes, right?
Yes. Item number 4, discussion regarding the recommendation of the Plan Commission that the Village Board approve ordinance 259-041718, which amends 66.0313C1 of the zoning code in such fashion that assembly halls are allowed as conditional use in the entire R3 large lot residence district, and confirms the conditional use permit which was granted Sarah Anderson on January 4, 2018 under the newly adopted portion of the zoning code. Consider a motion for action if appropriate.
Okay, the village attorney reviewed objections which were raised to the zoning code text amendment, which allows assembly halls as a conditional use on just specific parcels in the R3 zoning district, and stated that he believes the text amendment would be on more stable legal footing if it were to apply to an entire zoning district. Therefore, he recommended that the Plan Commission take a second look at this issue and recommend that ordinance number 259, which allows assembly halls as a conditional use in the entire R3 large lot residential zoning district, be approved. A public hearing was conducted on ordinance 259, and after that hearing, the Plan Commission recommended that the ordinance be approved as presented. Several of the commission members did note that they believe a definition should be provided for the term assembly halls, and that issue is going to be addressed at the April 24th Plan Commission meeting.
We need a motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Yeah. Any questions, discussion on this?
I'm a little confused as to the discussion of the definition of assembly hall coming after us voting on whether we should approve. I'm just curious as to why that discussion wouldn't be happening before we voted on it.
Because that was brought up at the Plan Commission public hearing. And this meeting comes first, and to move things along, and then we'll address it at the next Plan Commission meeting.
So in essence, somebody could be satisfied or dissatisfied with how they voted based on what the definition becomes after the fact? Because we're potentially saying yes to this, but not knowing how it's going to be defined, right? If that's how this is set up tonight?
Okay. We've already said yes to that zoning in R3. It's the zoning that we're changing, but going back and putting a better definition on quote assembly hall, wedding venue, or whatever. And that's where the question arose from. So the question isn't about quote assembly halls, the question is the change in zoning. And then we're gonna better define what the assembly hall, what that covers. There was a definition somewhere in our zoning code about assembly halls in general.
In general.
In general, and we wanted to, the planning commission wanted to closely define what that was, instead of having it as loose and large as it was currently defined.
Did we get any counsel from the village attorney as far as whether we should or should not further define it? Or is he, I mean, is the fact that we're going to discuss that, is he open to us coming up with a definition for it? Or have we received advice that it should not be defined?
Okay. There's been a lot of discussion with the village attorney on this particular issue. There was never discussion about defining the assembly halls, because the purpose of this is to change the zoning in R3 district. That's the primary issue. Second to that, the question was raised, can we further define or more closely define what assembly halls is? And the plan commission agreed to do that in public at a future meeting on the 24th. I guess what I wanted to potentially add to this as an amendment was that we come back and revisit this change. If we approve this, we come back and amend it so that we state that in, say, 180 days, we'll come back and relook at that zoning. So during that 180-day period of time, if anything else comes up or there's other questions about it, we may want to go back and relook at the change in the zoning. And that's a way to make sure that we do that.
My final thoughts on that would be, I'd be interested to know if anyone would be interested in a motion to move that vote until after the definition has been created. And I'd be interested to know if anyone feels that knowing what the definition is important at this point or not.
I think what Dave's saying, the point is, assembly hall can mean anything, and they're to appease people or to work with people or whatever, they're gonna try to narrow that down, so just not everything happens there. I don't think there's any obligation to change it, it's more of a goodwill nature to try to limit what might possibly happen down the road.
And usually doesn't that type of change come to the board for approval? I mean, plan commission would discuss it, say, here's our recommendation to change.
That would
Yes,
be
because
another
it would,
ordinance, yeah.
right, we'd be changing the zoning code under definitions or however we, right.
So then, Rob, plan commission would talk about it, they would get input from the public. It would come back here as a recommendation from the plan commission for the board to approve the change, so that if in reading the packet you didn't like something, or anybody didn't like something, that's time for discussion and or potential amendment before it would go into effect. So we're, nothing, it isn't set in stone, and you'd have another chance to review and or discuss or change.
I'm just looking at something. I think perhaps the board report may have caused some confusion. The ordinance itself does not speak to changing or looking at assembly halls. It just uses the definition of assembly halls, which we have in our code in other locations. What the plan commission agreed to do was, at some point in the future, take a look at what the actual definition of assembly halls is, because it was raised at the public hearing. But it's a separate issue from the change in the zoning. So that's why it's going to take place after the change in zoning.
That's going to be an entirely different ordinance.
Anybody else? We have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, so now how do you want this ordinance amended then? Under the now therefore? that it shall be reviewed in 180 days, or how many days, or do you want it as presented?
Or just put it in the tickler file, like what I did with, or do you want it a little more permanent?
I want it a little more permanent. I want to make sure we go back and review it.
How about, okay, where are we, in April? How about we make a motion that on the October Plan Commission meeting, that we have an agenda item discussing assembly halls in R3?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Do you want me to make that?
Please.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 5, review the draft development agreement between the Village of Sister Bay and Alan Goki of Marina View LLC for construction of a condo hotel on a property located 10722 North Bay Shore Drive. Consider a motion for action if appropriate.
Okay, at their March 27th meeting, the Plan Commission jointly reviewed a rough draft of the development agreement between the village and Al Goki. A copy of that development agreement is included in the meeting packets. During the review process, Mr. Goki asked if it would be possible for Section 16, Sub 2 of the agreement, which is contained on page 8, to be amended in such fashion that it reads, "No exterior work will be allowed to occur on the property which is the subject of this development agreement between July 31st and Labor Day weekend." Originally, the agreement had said between June 30th and Fall Fest weekend, and the Plan Commission felt that this matter should be referred to the village board. Mr. Goki then asked if it won't be possible to modify the previously mentioned time limit, if it would be possible to change his designated completion date to October 1st rather than June 1st. He had intended to be here this evening, but unfortunately his father passed away, and so he's not able to make the meeting.
So I know you said page 8, but in our packet, it's actually page 35, where it would start, I believe.
Yeah, and the
Page
suggested-
41 is where it's amended, which is page 8.
It's on
Yeah,
35.
the changes
Here's
start on
document.
page 35 of your Zooms, it's in red.
Yeah, but that's,
So the Plan Commission doesn't have a problem with the development agreement per se, it's the question of the two.
It was what he was asking, and I told Mr. Goki that I did not feel comfortable, and I kind of spoke for the whole Plan Commission as chair on addressing those issues. So we had no conversation about it and just said that his requests would be forwarded to the board. Michael Dobner, the neighbor from the boathouse, did speak up, and he said that if the village were to allow him to work in that time frame, that he would have no problem with him starting after Labor Day, but certainly anything after the June 30th would impact his business. So, and Mr. Goki is asking for July 31st through Labor Day, and a neighbor, that's a month past what the boathouse would like to see happen. And there's another request also from Hako Management.
Wait, before we go there, stick with this one for just a moment.
Okay.
So I get it straight in my head. If we don't grant him that request, then he's asking for a change in completion date also.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So instead of being completed in June 1st, he's asking for completion of October 1st.
Right.
If we hold him to the after Labor Day issue.
Right.
Well, no, we could, I think, we could potentially say, we don't want you to, we want it to stop on June 30th, so no out exterior between June 30th and
And
Labor
fall.
Day, but we're giving you another 4 or 5 weeks between Labor Day and Fall Fest that you could do
Right.
if the neighbors are okay with it.
So now I want to go to.
Personally, I think that sounds, it dies off, and I think it's more couples and this or that.
And I'm trying to tie this into
Yeah.
what I believe was Denise's next comment.
Okay.
We have a second request later in the agenda for something similar.
Okay.
And I just wanted to make sure if we're going to do it,
Yeah.
we do it similarly.
Equally, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you think are the grounds for tying those together completely like that, Dave? In my mind's eye, each one is an independent case, and I'll tell you why. Number one, this is the third project that Mr. Goki is starting in the village. He hasn't finished 2 of them yet. It's time for Mr. Goki, especially now that he has created a new entity that in essence is starting anew with the village. So the 2 projects that aren't finished are on his old entity. This is his new entity. I think it's time, and I think most citizens would agree that it's time for him to finish a job on time. I think Denise and Janelle and everyone who put together the development agreement did excellent work. I respect Mike Dotmer tremendously. Mike is a very good person, and quite frankly, there's not a lot of neighbors to a development that would be as open-minded and good-hearted as Mike is. As far as the back end, and Pat referring to that back end from September through October as being mainly couples, that's a time when the entire village would be significantly impacted by construction going on. You've got, most people realize now Pumpkin Patch is one of the most predominant retail sales drivers for the hospitality industry up here in Sister Bay. Many people will tell you their busiest time is during that time, the first weekend in October. I think the parameters of exclusionary time when work should not take place outside based on the original development agreement makes all the sense in the world, and I fully support in this instance the way the development agreement was originally written. I think with the case history of this particular developer, it's time to hold them accountable to a sensible timeline.
Okay, I think there's a couple other issues.
Yeah.
Look outside. Right now, a lot of people would have already had started construction, and they couldn't because of weather. So weather is always a possible issue with any developer or any construction project that's going on in Sister Bay. The second item I would bring up is when CHOP was built, the disruption that we had on Mill Road as well as Highway 42, when we didn't have enough control on what we allowed the developers and construction crews to do. We decided it was unacceptable to allow that sort of thing to happen again, which is why we wanted to make sure we put parameters, stricter parameters in place on the construction side. So with regard to Jekyll being right downtown on 42, even though we haven't got to that yet, I mean, that would be more of a disruptor in right central downtown than I would think on the other end of town where this project is.
Dave, do you mind?
Yeah.
This states if it is not allowed in July, he's gonna push it back.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter about it being that month.
Yeah.
Right.
Just to be clear, because your comment was like, let's find a compromise, but if his compromise, if we give him an extra month or the extra 2 months, it's still gonna push it 6 months back.
Well, that's what he's asking for.
Yeah, but that's
Doesn't
what
mean we have to grant
that's what
it.
this agreement states. That's how it's, no, but that, I'm just being clear, like, I like
Yeah.
your idea, but his idea isn't like,
Sure.
oh, sure, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's, if I can't work in July, it's gonna be October 1st. So just
Yeah.
to read it clear.
I mean, when I think about it though, if you think about July, and you start thinking about parking and people and congestion
Yeah.
downtown, to me, it's worse in July and August.
Absolutely.
Than it is in September.
Absolutely.
Notably,
Yeah.
just no question whatsoever. I mean, so, to me, I'd be much more inclined to say, yeah, September, you get through that Labor Day, things do die off. Are there people still here? Sure. Is there gonna be inconvenience? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be much less than July?
Yeah.
I think so.
And I agree with you. I just was clarifying your compromise doesn't seem
And
to
what you
matter.
can say, that's fine, maybe we say that the final completion gets moved back, but the same conditions apply. You gotta get that exterior done, before July 1st and after, Memorial Day that next year then too.
I think if we do something between Labor Day and Fall Fest, as he's suggesting, we should exclude Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
And that's it's a reasonable
Well,
thing, let them work
well,
410s or 412s.
and I was-
Monday to Thursday.
Well,
What?
I understand where you were going, but if we would allow him to do anything different than how it's written, then I think we also need to address the noise and hours of operation, because as it's currently written, they can start at 7 a.m. and work until 9 p.m. on weekdays and Saturdays. Well, if he's allowed to do that in September and our marina is still full, I don't think those are the appropriate hours, you know, for the marina being across the street. And I think those should be adjusted, could be adjusted for that time frame. Is my thought.
That's very nice of you to consider the patrons of the marina.
Pat's soft spot.
Yeah, well, but in all honesty, I think a lot of boaters are up early. You know, they're either moving on to the next port, or they're just, that's the type of people that they are. And the late thing, I think, they oftentimes sit around and enjoy the sunset and barbecue and a adult beverage with their compadres until the sunset. That's 9 o'clock anyway, that
As they
as
listen
a
to the
boater,
ripsaws.
9
and-
to 7 wouldn't, or 7 to 9 wouldn't be a, but I mean, if you want to change it to
But I
8
also
to 8
think
or
too,
something.
the boathouse has outdoor seating.
Yeah.
You know, and I was thinking about, okay, well, boaters don't sleep in late just because there's always so much noise or whatever, or a certain amount of noise always in a marina. I can understand that, but then on the other hand, also there's then the boathouse. If Michael's, you know, nice enough to say it's okay with him, but, you know, I don't know that his diners outside on nice days want to listen to
Okay, well,
that.
then if you let them, what, with 7 to 5, that still gives them a 10-hour day, Monday to Thursday. Then do Monday to Thursday, 7 to 5. That's a 40-hour week in 4 days. It cuts it off before the pro dining or
Sure.
happy hour, whatever you want to call it.
Well,
That sounds.
Oh, it's always happy hour here. Yeah,
I guess I would be, oh, excuse me, I guess I would be cautious about September, because last year, September was very busy. Very busy. A lot of guests in town. I'd almost go along with Rob and say, let them stick to what we have and go ahead and extend it to October.
And just to clarify September a little more, speaking for the business I run, as well as other businesses I'm well aware of in town, September last year wasn't just really busy, it was the strongest September in the last 10 years. And many people in the advanced booking industry are already showing that September and October increasingly bode well for being even stronger than they were last year.
Any idea how much of that is weekend versus weekday?
I can tell you personally, from my own operations, that what September has become has been the biggest month for growth in 7-night or more stays. What you have is, much like our residential base, as a lot of people are familiar with, we have a higher average age tourism base than a lot of places in the country, which has a lot to do with why we've done so much trying to drive younger traffic in the county for sustaining it. The older guests are much preferring the September timeframe when it is quiet, when, you know, these are guests who have been, in many cases, Door County people for 20, 30 years. And, you know, 20, 30 years ago, they told everyone about the sweatshirt they bought every year at Fall Fest. Now they don't want the crowds. They don't want first weekend in October anymore because everybody's buzzing around because it's something called Pumpkin Patch, and it's not happening in Sister Bay, but everything's busy. They want to be in the mellow time, and, you know, that's something that's not going to exist to the degree a lot of people who've been coming here have relied on.
I think something we gotta consider that, I mean, our dream of not having anybody swinging a hammer in summer in the season is great, and we all want that, and that's why it's there, but it's not a set in stone thing. I mean, if we excluded any kind of work done during that time, I mean, exceptions have been made before, and I think they have to continue to be open to them because of the fact nobody will do anything if otherwise. I mean, I hear what you're saying, Rob, I don't disagree with you, I just think there's gotta be a little bit of a middle ground.
I agree with you, and I think, as far as you saying, there's got to be a potential for exceptions, I agree with you, but I would just, my final point on this agenda item would be, a statement was made a little while ago that, well, we need to treat everybody equally. Yes, we do, but if two people walk into a bank for a loan, they'll be treated equally. But if one doesn't qualify for that loan, they're not going to get it just because the other person got it. And, to me, it is a significantly different situation when you have someone with a track record of not finishing projects on time to just incite them to take more time on another project. To me, in this instance, on this agenda item, it's time to say, for once, give us a project finished on time, and here's the parameters.
Do we have a motion on this?
No.
I will make a motion to approve the development agreement for the Village of Sister Bay parcel number 1810005312841T1, Marina View LLC, as presented and amended with a completion date of October 1st, 2019.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so what does that mean for his other requests? Leave it as it
I'm
is.
denying them, and
Denying,
as it's,
yeah.
well, although, wait, I shouldn't say, because you had already incorporated that in there, right?
No,
Or just
there's-
highlighted it in red?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
so then I would
Right.
just take that out.
Right, take that out and
Yeah.
just change the completion date.
So June 1st basically goes to October 1st. On page 37
Yes.
and
Yes.
page
First.
35.
35.
So in essence, the original development agreement is what we're voting on.
But you're
Before
changing-
But I'm
Changing
changing
the
the completion
completion
date.
The
Completion
completion date goes
June
from
to
June 1st to
October.
October 1st.
So the exclusionary time remains June 30th to Fall Fest, no work.
Exterior work,
Exterior.
Correct.
both years.
Okay.
Right.
Just so it's clear in that
Yeah.
agreement that he doesn't think that starting in June of 2019, he can be swinging
Sure.
hammers during the summer.
No.
I'll second that motion.
It's already been seconded.
Yeah.
Okay. Any
So
other-
you're gonna leave it, you're not changing it till Labor Day weekend then either?
No.
No.
Okay, it'll go to Fall Fest.
Well, we don't even know if it's going to pass yet.
That's what you're recommending.
That's what I'm, yeah, that's my motion.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Well,
Wait, sorry?
Quick question?
Yes.
Was he asking for both of those, or he said if I didn't get the first one, then I would like it to be moved back, that we are
Yes.
giving him basically what he wanted, one of the two things?
Yes.
Okay, fine, okay, go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item 6, discussion regarding utilities, water, sewer collection, storm sewer committee's recommendation that before work is actually done on Highway 57 reconstruction project by the DOT, crosscuts be made in that roadway for future expansion of the utility system, review of bids which were received for required work, as well as the village engineer's recommendations with respect to those bids, consider a motion for action if appropriate. Before we move into that, I just want to mention there has been a change to this particular item, so we're going to let Lee explain what this says, and when we have a closed session later, I'm recommending we not take any action on what he explains. We're going to have a closed session item later where there'll be some further discussion, and based on that discussion, we may then act on this when we come out of closed session. Okay? So, Lee?
Thank you. Lee Novak with Robert Lee. We put together a project to put in some sewer and water crossings, 3 of them across Highway 57 prior to the resurfacing project. This came about fairly quickly. We were notified about a month ago or so that DOT had their schedule of resurfacing the highway beginning the first week of June. So.
Can I interrupt for just a moment?
Yes.
What brought, let's back up, because what brought all this up was there's potential of over the next ever many years, some potential development may occur down Highway 57. So we know from our previous design work that we've done that any sewer and water would go on the east side?
West side.
West, would go on the west side of the road. So to service any property on the east side that has got any development potential along Highway 57, we'd have to make some crosscuts under the highway. Well, knowing that DOT is going to reconstruct and resurface that road this spring, we thought if we were going to do that, it might make sense to make those crosscuts now, when it wouldn't be, quote, that expensive to do, and make those crosscuts now prior to any development that took place, so if 2 years from now, we didn't have to tear up the newly resurfaced Highway 57. So,
Yeah,
that, that's what started this.
And that's where we started. In my initial discussions with the DOT, we thought we had 3 weeks of time, so basically from May 1st up to Memorial Day. The contractor that's gonna be doing the work of the resurfacing Northeast Asphalt, they already have a contract with, they went back to them. Northeast said no, the only window we'll give the village is from May 14th to May 25th, so it's basically, we went from 3 weeks down to 11 days. So that was a big reason why we only got one bid. Most of the contractors have been a busy year for sewer and water contractors, and the majority of them have worked for this particular time. They're right now, most of them are booked through midsummer. They're looking for fall work. Some of the contractors just didn't have the manpower to do the amount of work that this required within that short period of time as well. So Jossard Brothers was the bidder on the project. They did the work for the Stony Ridge development that crossed Highway 57 about 2 years ago. I think they did sewer and water installation. They're familiar with the village and the process. The bid was extremely high. I had put together a letter here explaining things. The bid was $301,230. Normally, when we put our estimate together based on what we've seen in the village in past projects that we've performed here and had done a similar type, we expected to see about an $80,000 cost. So again, extremely, extremely high. The crossings there's one at Orchard. So properties along Orchard going to the south and on both sides could develop potentially with sewer and water at some time in the future. There was one about midway between Orchard and Northwoods for the larger property that's owned by the Heatons. And then we looked at another crossing down by Northwoods. And with that one, as we got into design, it just made sense because we're gonna be digging up at that intersection to also cross Northwoods and get done and get out of there. So what we did is after we got the bids, we looked at, like I said, knowing what we're considering the budget, is there something that we can do yet and make the cost less? So we kind of broke down each crossing by cost. And the crossings, the two northerly ones were approximately $57,000. That's to put the sewer, the water in, blast the rock, put in a slurry backfill. And that was the other thing that was extremely expensive. We went back, when we did the Johnson had done the one for Stony Ridge, they used the blasted rock, put it back in. It had settled several times and the DOT was not real pleased with that. So, and this one they were requiring a slurry backfill, which is a mixture of sand, gravel, mixed in a concrete truck with water, and then a lean concrete. So that basically you have a concrete backfill that's not going to move at all. The cost of that just for this, Johnson indicated, was over $100,000 because he'd have to haul out all the blasted rock, dispose of it, bring in the slurry. So what we looked at was then, where were the costs high? The costs, again, on Northwoods, there was a manhole associated, some valves, hydrant, that we had put in. That area, the Northwoods, the crossing of the highway and then Northwoods itself was the majority of the cost. So they were gonna do it under a detour, so there was some cost for traffic control and detour. The DOT had approved that, and they had approved the permit to do the installation. Then there's common things like mobilization, erosion control. So in order to do those two northern crossings, with the crossing sewer pipe, still, the blast in the rock, the slurry backfill, and then the mobilization detour, we're figuring about $125,000 for those two, and our recommendation, it would be that to do those two, if the property on the very western corner of that Eden property area would develop, you would have the option to connect onto that middle crossing, run a sewer down the east ditch line and not impact the highway. So basically you're bringing sewer over to that east side along that property. Without knowing how those properties are gonna develop, we're trying to give as many options for them to have access to sewer and water. As everyone's familiar, that property does kind of slope to the south and southwest along the highway. So the lowest point is on that southerly end. So our recommendation then would be to, if you go ahead, from a legal standpoint, you need to award the bid as is, and then contingent on a change order to delete the amount of the contract down to $125,000. It's based on unit price bids, so it'd be whatever's measured at the time. But we feel, and I talked to Jesse Josser, President of Josser, on the way up, as I was coming up this afternoon, he felt comfortable with $125,000, $130,000 that they would be able to do those two for.
Okay.
So, any questions? I did pass out a map too, just kind of showing where each of the crossings are as well.
I would ask that you withhold questions until after we have our closed session information, but I have one question for you. If this was not done now, and we had to do a crossing upon the newly completed highway 3 years from now, what is the difference in potential cost or effort to do that?
Again, if you just had a contractor to come up, and that's the other part of it, it's a small, project, so it is just mobilization and everything. You really only have one local contractor up here. Certainly couldn't do within this time frame. So my answer would be, it would be fairly similar to what we'd be projecting here. And not knowing what costs are gonna be 2 or 3 years down the road. Construction prices since about January 1st have increased about 10 to 15% as well. I did a project in the village of Luxembourg last week that was about 10% high, based on, again, we've done similar projects the last 2 years.
I guess where I'm going with that is, if we decided not to do anything with this and waited until there was a development to do something about, and then we ran the sewer and water, you would have somebody already mobilized running sewer and water, and as part of that contract, you would just have them do the crosscuts.
Yeah, you do the crosscut, and you'd still have to do the detour, and
Right.
this is still cheaper. The only other option is to try to bore the rock with the sewer and the water. You're probably talking $1,000 a foot versus we're about, $400 a foot here. And you would have a cut in, or two, potential 2 cuts in a brand new road. So,
Which the DOT would love, I'm sure.
yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. So we're just gonna let that one rest for a minute. Discussion regarding request from Chris Schmelz of Jacob Management, condition B, included in the development agreement for the hotel to be constructed on Sister Bay Marketplace property. That site prep and related work be allowed from September 4th to Tuesday after Labor Day to October 10th to Wednesday before Fall Fest. Consider a motion for action if appropriate.
Okay, you guys basically have discussed this somewhat already. But it's the same provision that's in the standard development agreement template, is that typically the work is allowed between June 30th or no work is allowed, I'm sorry, between June 30th and Fall Fest weekend on the exterior of the property. Denise and I had a conversation with Chris, and he was saying that it would be helpful for him if that timetable could be modified.
Did he indicate what type of work he wants to do in that period of time?
I thought it was site prep.
It's site prep, yeah.
So you're talking bulldozing, grading, excavation?
He said just because it's such a large project, it would help if he could have a little jump start on it. And he does intend to erect safety fencing and, you know, ensure that people keep out. But again, he was informed that this was a condition that the board would have to approve.
So that would be through Columbus Day weekend. That would be through Fall Classic. And what was the Plan Commission's feeling on this, other than kicking it up to the board?
It wasn't even on our agenda.
No.
Okay.
Chris and I just were talking
Yeah.
with Chris
All right, I withdraw
after
that
the
remark.
meeting. Denise just said that's got to go to the board.
I'm
It's above our
sorry,
pay grade, Dave.
I'm sorry, I feel the same way as I did on the last project.
Dave, Louise is raising her hand.
Louise, yes?
From on Mill Road, we start prepping for the arts and craft booths on Tuesday. And then Chop and the Creamery and all of the restaurants will move their deliveries up because Mill Road will be closed on Thursday night. So you get, I went through this last, I don't know if Jody knows about this, but hair on fire last year. So, because you just get a lot more people getting earlier deliveries because they can't get in.
Sure.
Either they have difficulty getting in after Thursday night or Friday morning, or they can't get in at a certain point. So that would make it, and I would say that, having been there for the Peninsula, for the bike race, that is also,
Yeah.
I mean, that impacts visitors near and dear to our hearts. And that's a lot of people. I mean, they had 800 riders last year, and that was a 20% increase. So.
And they use Mill Road as the exit. too.
Absolutely, they do. Not only that, but their kiddie corner, I mean, the experience is at Waterfront Park in front of the pavilion where we have music. And so, I think it would impact the visitor's experience. I know it would, actually, for that particular event. And then in terms of the businesses, I think it would impact our, not lodging so much, but it would definitely impact some of our restaurants in terms of their deliveries and how they get in and out, because it's a little tight anyway. And then getting ready, we have 100 booths to set up. So we paint, we strike them off, we do it, it doesn't sound like much, but it takes some time to figure out who goes where and that kind of thing. So if anything else, and I a lot of respect for Chris, and we work with him and talked to him many times about this project, I would need at least a couple of days, at least Tuesday, to try and get the Tuesday before, this is the Wednesday before that he wants to try and get some of these deliveries in and out and get the booths set up and things like that.
When
What
he-
about the Friday before Fall Fest? A whole
Right.
week.
Right, just cut that
Yeah,
week out.
just cut that week out.
Well, then you would avoid pumpkin patch because, Rob is 100% right. I mean, that's a huge.
It's a huge weekend for us.
It's a huge weekend for us in our restaurants as well. Not just lodging, it's huge.
So, let's make sure I got this correct. That would be the start of the project for him?
That would be when the bulldozers come in and do
Correct.
the site.
So that would be the
prep.
start of
Yeah.
coming in and do the site prep and everything else.
Yeah.
So all of that equipment has to sit somewhere
Mhm.
during that period of time. And things going in and out of that road are gonna be the big cake stick of
Yeah, it's gonna be loud and dirty.
mud and dirt and grubs and everything else, okay?
So their development agreement, now that we have all new entrances and stuff, does he have certain places that he can cross?
We
the
have
new
not
curves
done
and
his
stuff?
development agreement
Oh,
yet,
okay.
because he still has not submitted utilities, lighting, or landscaping. There might be one other thing, or is it just those three? So Janelle and I have not written it yet, or Janelle has not written it yet.
Okay.
We're waiting for that. But he was asking this, trying to, plan, even though we didn't have a development agreement.
He's planning on getting those things in soon, and so he wanted to get things rolling if he could.
Did he have any indication how well he could contain the work he's doing? Like, is he planning on hoping to use parking spaces?
I didn't get that impression. He had said that he would,
There's a lot of grass there.
Yeah.
he would,
And
he
I
would
don't know
put up
what-
safety fences, is what he told us.
I don't know why he'd have to be in that parking lot at all. I mean, the equipment should
Yeah.
just be on the
And you wouldn't
lawn.
think you'd want that on the new black.
Yeah, but that equipment's gotta come on and off
Well, that's what I'm
somewhere.
wondering is,
Yeah.
where's the
And those
access
parking
point?
spaces
Right.
right
You'd rather
there
it not
is-
be on the
It's
highway.
it's sidewalk
You know,
on
so
a
then
highway.
you're on Mill
yeah,
Road,
that's-
you're going through the new parking lot.
Yeah.
You know, did we okay the expansion of that parking lot? I mean, is there gonna be, is that the finished grade of the existing? Or if he's gonna expand, the whole thing's gonna get another lift or something, or?
No, I think he's
Okay.
just adding on to it,
Yeah.
probably at very similar grade.
Okay.
Was there any discussion, Janelle, on how many contractors who would be working on this job would be
Tons.
bringing vehicles into? And would those contractors be looking to park?
No,
On
that
the
we
public
didn't
streets.
get into.
Right, I think that needs to be part of the development agreement.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we did have a problem.
Yes, we
Right.
learned,
Mill Road
hopefully we
before.
learned our lesson.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So, as much as I was thinking I'm in favor of, I like the Monday to Thursday thing, 7 to 5, but then, okay, where do you, if he can contain it on the grass, and he's not taking up half the parking lot with contractor vehicles, or Mill Road, or,
Well, you'd have to, I
and
would
cut it
think-
off that week, don't do the
Well,
last
you'd-
week.
You'd have to be able to restrict them to within the property,
Right.
nothing outside. But I'm quite concerned about the weekend of September 15th with the Fall Classic.
Okay.
It's a big weekend,
Yeah.
and you got almost 1,000 bicyclists going up and down that road right there. So perhaps the plan commission could work out in their development agreement.
Do not kick it back to
Some-
us, Dave.
Somewhere
Well,
around.
he has a grin on his
Well,
face.
Yeah.
You notice
or
that?
maybe let them know, look, we got 1,000 bicyclists. If we let you do this, if there's any mud on it, you're gonna pay, we're gonna have the county come up and we're gonna clean it. And that's on you. On Thursday afternoon, you get, maybe, it's Monday to Thursday. If Thursday at 5 o'clock, that's dirty, you will be getting a bill for cleaning of the street. Maybe it's that, then he's,
It's gotta be clean before then, you won't get the county up here on a Friday.
Denise will take care of it.
I'll call my
I
buddy
can't
Chris
have
Hack
weeds, I
with a
can't
fire
have weeds in the
truck.
cracks in the
Yeah,
garage.
There you go.
Right. Maybe, right.
Yeah, I guess I'd like a lot more information on what he thinks he can do, how well he can contain it, which are probably answers he doesn't know, because he's gonna have to talk to the people doing the work. Because you're excavating, that's what he's gonna be doing, excavating, maybe pouring concrete. It's big, dirty stuff.
Yep.
Big trucks.
Should we table it until next month and see if Janelle can get some very specifics
Yeah,
from
that'd
him?
be great.
And
Okay.
talk to him
Great
about
idea.
things like the Fall Classic and the extra time before Fall Fest and.
And-
Dirty roads
And-
and
and
can they
limited
do it Monday
hours.
through Thursday?
And limited hours, because that may,
And the weekend before Fall Fest is busy.
Yeah, that's the biggest weekend of
Well, it's
the
that-
entire year.
It's like that 10-day period
I,
is all.
I think that Monday through Thursday idea, Dave, is very solid. I would say that along with that, to just say October, September 30th is, from September 4th to September 30th, within the guidelines of Monday through Thursday or whatever, but especially considering the cleanup that might be involved and how much time it would take, I think if it's too close to Pumpkin Patch Weekend, you're inviting the chance for there to be issues.
Yeah, you should stop it before Pumpkin Patch Weekend.
So should I
Which is
just ask-
Thursday, October 4th,
Yeah,
right?
so I
Yeah, it
think
starts
September
then.
30th or October 1st, give a couple days to clean up from
So
there.
should I just ask him to be here at the next meeting, and then he could address it?
Well, he can be here, he can put it on paper.
Right, but we need to tell him
Just-
the concerns and.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
So he has
He
something
needs
to
to
work
give us
with.
some very specifics.
But I think you could probably say, here's what their thought is. You wouldn't think they'd be amenable to other than Monday through Thursday.
Right.
Just so that,
Yeah.
that groundwork's laid, that he's not coming up
Through
saying,
what?
well, give me a couple weekends.
Yeah.
Okay, so Monday through Thursday through what dates?
Uh,
Well, he's got to work around the Fall Classic, which is the weekend of
The
the
15th.
15th of September.
Okay.
So that's got to, everything's got to be, the road for sure has got to be cleared not later
Okay.
than like 12th or 13th.
Monday through Thursday, September 4th through October 1st.
Right, Monday to Thursday.
Monday
7 to
through
5.
Thursday, September 4th to October 1st.
Okay.
Well, October 1st is a Monday, so that's,
Well, then you back it
Erroneous
up to
date.
whatever the Thursday is.
When Pumpkin Patch is the,
first weekend in October
Yeah.
this year.
So Columbus Day is the 8th, Monday
Right.
the 8th.
Okay.
So that makes it the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
okay, so Thursday the 4th, he was done
Done.
out of here?
Through 10
That work?
4. Okay.
Actually, 10/4 should be cleanup day only.
Okay.
Right, 10-4 should, yeah,
Yeah.
So
It
that's
should be
like to
cleaned.
10 through-
10/3, and then give them a day.
right.
So see if that's okay, and if so, then we'll put it on the next board meeting, or board agenda. Okay.
And, where will he keep the equipment?
Turn it into a ride concession for Fall Fest.
Yes. Didn't they have something in Green Bay, bring your kids to
Right.
the big toys?
It's like Chris does with the fire trucks.
Yeah, touch a truck.
Touch a truck.
Touch a Caterpillar.
Don't think OSHA's gonna be excited about that on the construction site.
Don't tell him.
Do you need a motion to table?
No. It's just being continued.
Okay.
Okay. Next item, discussion regarding recommendation from Marina Fest Committee to allow arts and crafts vendors to utilize the area between Village Hall and the Post Office of Marina Fest Arts and Crafts Show. Consider a motion for action if appropriate.
Okay, the Marina Fest Committee has been trying to come up with ideas to draw more people to Marina Fest. And one of the decisions they made is that it might be a good idea to have a Marina Fest Arts and Crafts Fair, which is kind of similar to what's done at Fall Fest. They're gonna be having it on the Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of Labor Day weekend. And it's hopefully going to be held, if you guys grant permission, between the Village Hall and the Post Office. And so the committee is just requesting permission to utilize that parkland. Typically, this would be something that would go to parks, but we didn't have a quorum, so it came directly to the board.
We should mention that the next couple of items all came to the board directly because we didn't have a quorum at Parks.
Sorry, guys.
So, Planning Commission kicked it up to the board, Parks is kicking it. So, this is no different than what had been done prior.
Fall Fest
Fall
years ago.
Fest used to
Yeah.
use the same space, doing the same thing.
And the Festival of the Arts is in
Festival of the
the
Arts
same
is
area
same
too.
way.
Same, right, same thing.
The only thing
Excellent idea.
that the Parks
Excellent
guys
idea.
have requested is that you impose the condition that they not use tents with stakes, because there's water lines and electrical lines in that area.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, thank you.
Excellent idea.
Item 9, review the 2018 SBA schedule of events, consider a motion for action if appropriate. This also is typically presented to the Parks Committee, and the Parks Committee
Kicked it up here.
approves it, however, kicked it up, because Chad wasn't there, so.
I
It's
have,
all Chad's fault.
I have
Oh,
a
my
question.
God. Yes, Mel.
Louise, after our, your sit-in on the phone at the Parks meeting, what did we finally decide on the Sunday night movies? That it would go back to Saturday?
I'd really like to keep it on Sundays. Here's why. We decided back in December to move it to Sundays because Saturday nights it's becoming more and more difficult for us to compete with the 8 billion other things that are happening around the county on Saturday nights. And we were getting, I mean, certainly we get great participation. It's weather dependent, but we typically get very good participation. And when I looked at others at Sunday nights around the county, there isn't a heck of a lot that we would be competing with. So then we moved it to, I asked the board agreed, and we put it, and we made everyone aware that that's what we wanted to do and why. So very family friendly, there are 6 films, this is films, not music, 6 films, 3 animated, all the rest are either PG or PG-13, typically most of them run animated an hour and a half, the other films run about 2 hours. We have to start them at dusk, because the technology isn't good enough yet for us to start them much earlier. So typically they would run about 8 p.m. So having done that, we put it to bed, and the schedule is now in print in our brochure, which is available now. There are 15,000 of those, and it's also in the Door County Visitors Bureau brochure, and there are 250,000 of those. So I can change it digitally. It's a lot of work to go and change it because it's on a bazillion websites, which is where we want it, but we can do that, and we can change our website as well. Our brochure is on our website digitally, we can change that as well. Can we change the print? No, we can't. Will we look silly? Yes, we will. Will we have a lot of visitors wondering what's going on, and will there be a lot of confusion? Yes, there will. But I think our point was that we really felt it was a good idea. We felt it was a good idea for the visitors to enhance their experience, and certainly our residents as well.
I think it's a great idea, but as our conversation at Parks was, it simply cannot be on Sunday.
Is there any
Are you
way
going
we
to
can-
contradict me?
No, but we're not done talking about that in closed session.
Right,
Oh, the reason why Sunday?
Yes,
yes.
okay.
Okay, so I mean, our position would be that it's the right.
Your position would be you want to keep it there.
I understand that.
Okay.
So we like to keep it on a lot of different levels. So,
Okay.
and that was our thinking behind it.
Okay.
And then, obviously, music stays on Wednesday nights from 6 to 9.
So you would move it back to Saturday then this year?
If we had to, yeah, if I had a choice, I would definitely make it Saturdays.
Okay.
If we moved any closer to Wednesdays, it's just a little, it's kind of tricky. I mean, we want to get the maximum amount out of it as we can. So Saturday would be the most logical after Sundays.
Okay. Anything else you want to add on any other list of the activities here?
No, sir, there's a new one, we're doing a Lego event, it'll be very fun. Not allowed to say Lego, because apparently they have this funny thing about their
Right.
trademark.
Building blocks that look like
That would
Legos?
be sued. So we're calling it brick party by the bag, so it'll be very fun. We have a bunch of Lego, we've got 8 or 10 Lego hobbyists coming up from around the state and bringing all their stuff, and one of them is building a life-size goat. I think it'll be 12,000 white Legos, which Lars has offered to purchase. So that will be on display, and then the star goat over at Al Johnson will come over and make personal appearances with his Lego goat for a photo op. So we'll be doing that, and a few other things. But as luck would have it, it's really crazy because the Cat Gardening Bag is doing an unbelievable Lego display. They've got an artist that I think they courted him for like 5 years, and I think they're one of the few botanic gardens in the country that are getting it. He's built Legos the size of that wall. If you go on their website, he's built a butterfly the size of that wall. He has a hummingbird. It's unbelievable, the installation that they've done. Nicolay Bank is sponsoring it, so I'm hopeful that our Nicolay Bank would love to sponsor ours. I'm meeting them tomorrow. So anyway, so it'll be a very fun event, but otherwise it's pretty much the same thing. what we've always done and are proud to do, and a couple little twists here and there, but pretty much the same stuff.
Could we make a motion to approve as presented excluding the movies?
I have one question. Can I?
Well, can I have mine
Yeah.
answered first?
We could do that.
Okay.
I don't think we need to do that.
Okay.
I think we just accept it as presented.
Okay.
And right now, nothing's changed. So if something changed, we would have to go back and speak to SBAA.
For what it's worth, I will tell you it goes back to the boating thing, we go to these other ports. There's one port that has the movies on Saturday, all the rest of them have other days. And even when there's good movies to see on Saturday, there is something that competes with you, or it's a big dinner night, you get people coming in to visit you, whatever else, and you don't see the movie on Saturday invariably. But if it's any other night, we make more of those movies, just as a side note.
Okay.
Okay, Dave.
Probably make your motion after close.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. So then I'll just hold. Okay.
One question on the schedule.
Yes.
On the letter, 2018 SBAA sponsored and hosted events, down with concerts and movies in the park. It says SBAA will also host a Sunday, September 2nd Marina Fest concert in the evening. And on the schedule, there's only an afternoon concert listed. Is there a second concert on the 2nd in addition to the afternoon concert?
No, there's one from 3 to 6, that's it.
Okay. So 3 to 6 is the evening?
Yeah, we don't,
Okay.
it's not part of our concert series, Rob. What we participate with Marina Fest, which is a village-sponsored event, and we work with them and find the music for that event and offer our sound guys and stuff like that. So typically that event would have been from, I think, 2 to 5, and this year it's 3 to 6.
Okay, so then is what's on the second sheet, is there also a concert at night then, or there's just the
There
one?
is not. No.
Just the one concert and that's the time? Okay, I got you, thank you.
No, it's just Conscious Pilot from 3 to 6.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to hold off any motion on this till after our closed session.
Okay?
Item 10, consider request from the Village of Ephraim to use the village's biking boat and trailer for Fear Ball 2018. Consider motion for action if appropriate. We had a 50-50 split on the Parks Committee on this one.
Really?
Denise said no?
I did. But you had to hear the whole conversation.
I think they should have to use it. I want the chief to come in on the boat.
Yeah.
Buy water.
Well, but there was removal of signage, there's covering of signage. There were other things that we were informed about, just in general
Does Sharon have to
goodwill
drive it?
things.
Any dings or dents?
Steve Mann didn't say
No.
that there were.
No.
Okay.
But
It's just the covering and
They
removal.
cover up the Village of Sister
Yeah,
Bay logo,
yeah.
and they cover up, and they put one on some type
And they
of cloth stretch over.
removed them too, and we didn't want them
Took it
to,
Well,
Yeah.
years ago, we said you can use it when I was on Parks, but you left our signs on there.
And
well, they've never
Yeah.
abided by that.
You
No,
never did,
No.
huh?
the things that were
Okay,
like
And
snow
I'm thinking-
coasters came off.
I took a more global view, in that let them use it, if they want to cover it up, fine, but we also borrow several things from them that have nothing to do with the boat, but has to do with utilities, or has to do with parks, where we borrow equipment back and forth of items they have that we don't, otherwise we'd have to go rent them, and likewise, we also let them use other equipment. So my
Okay.
point was, let them use it, and if they want to cover it up, fine, everybody knows.
Just don't remove it.
Everybody in Sister Bay knows where the boat came from. I mean, everybody in Door County knows where the boat comes from.
I mean, we borrow all their hotel guests, so I think.
And, right, and we get,
And
you know,
we've been getting the people,
Fear-
the bar
fear-
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fear Ball helps us too.
I'm still all right.
You know,
Have, especially considering Steve Mann's recommendation about continuing the brotherhood of lending things, but requiring them to keep the signing on, if they're going to try to take that, if they're adamant about not wanting that on there or not letting it be shown,
Well,
Can't we
I-
just tell them they'd have to rent it if they want to use it then, if they're going to take that off?
No, I think the issue was, they were physically unbolting something and taking
Right.
it off.
Yeah.
And
We
I
don't
think
want them to
We
do
don't want
that.
them to physically
Right,
take
I
it off. They want to
understand that.
cover it and put fear ball or something on it, that's fine, but we don't want them disassembling anything. So I
Yeah,
think
the
if we
whole
told
thing
them
may
that.
just go. There's definitely some spit in a few places that are old.
You wanna continue in the
Neighborly.
neighborly
Yeah.
sharing.
I'll make a motion, we let them use it.
I'll second that.
Okay, do you want to impose a
You wanna put any-
condition that they not
impose any
remove?
conditions?
Apparently, they don't listen anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we can have the not remove things, I get that.
Yeah.
The covering's better than removing, I think, too.
Okay, so you don't care if they cover it?
No.
So, okay, so that, just that they not remove?
Not remove.
No disassembly allowed.
Yes.
We call it the Fear Ball Float, sponsored by Sister Bay.
All right, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The vote goes to fear ball. Okay. Discussion on village bylaws, review of 2018 committee appointment worksheet, spreadsheets in which current trustee and committee member appointments have been delineated. Everybody should have their sheets. A couple of them have been turned in to me. Turn them in to me as soon as you can. State your committee preference. I'd be happy to talk to you about them privately. At the moment, I don't have anything as far as bylaw changes. If you noticed any bylaw changes or you think we should make some bylaw changes, bring them up. And at the next meeting, we'll do committee appointments and any potential bylaw changes.
Tonight in the packets, you did get a blank sheet in case some of you didn't have an opportunity to print them out, so you have that.
Item 12, reporting county activities from County Supervisor Dave Lino. Today was the Door County Board of Supervisors organizational meeting after the 2-year election of all 21 supervisors. I was given the privilege and honor again. I was elected unanimously to be the chair for the county board for the next 2 years again. I'm very thankful for that. It's a humbling experience. And then trying to put together 38 committees with 21 people. And this year, they took 4 committees and combined them into 2. So where there had been 28 appointments, there's only 14. But you still have 21 people.
Sure.
And where there had been 4 chairs available for those committees, there was only 2. So it was quite an experience.
Did
to
they
work-
get
to work
sheets
through
like
that.
this?
I'll tell you what, I'll show you what their sheets look like. Here was my
Oh,
worksheet.
jeez.
Oh, good Lord.
Burn the midnight oil,
And
huh?
out of that comes, there's your committees.
Two-sided.
Wow.
Okay, then, anybody who's interested in the Anaby Trail System, the old rail line used to go between Sturgeon Bay, Algoma, and beyond. That was deeded by the state to the county, Kewanee County, for many, many years, and they've been trying to work diligently over many, many years to get funds and state approval to allow that trail to come down into Sturgeon Bay, so you could park downtown, get on a bike or hiking trail and walk up the Anaby Trail. They finally got approval to do that. They got funds allocated for it. When they came to put the trailhead together, they were $16,000 short. So they have the Friends of the Park group. The Friends of the Park group went out and raised money, and today donated $16,000
Great.
to parks to allow that to be completed. So this year it'll be finished, and there will now be a trailhead in Sturgeon Bay that lead to the Anaby Park, or Anaby Trail park system. So
Good.
been a long time coming. They also today approved the fiber lateral agreement for Sister Bay. So at the NWTC up atop the hill, the Cellcom fiber that went through there last year and is sitting here, terminated here, will now also, line will be dropped directly to NWTC Learning Center up on top of the hill. And so that agreement was approved and signed today too. We're still looking into the idea of Is there some way we could get into that, because they will also allow it to government entities? Is there some way we could tap into what's up there?
Yeah, no kidding.
As it turns out, it's on a pole right across the street from that building, is where it runs. So,
So there's hope.
hope there's
However
hope.
small.
There's
We can
hope.
get Nate to dress in black and take care of it.
Fiber routes are a lot more complicated.
Yes.
It might be right there, but it might have to go over there to get there. It's,
But that was approved today for up there, so that's great. We also established a Door County Committee for 980 placements. 980 placements are violent sexual offenders. The state law was recently changed. It used to be that people that were released that were considered violent sexual offenders or sexual offenders had to be placed in certain areas in various communities, and every community said, over there but not in mine. And it was very difficult to place these individuals. So the state law was recently changed by the state, and you now have to be released back into the community from which you came. So if somebody's
Is
going
that
to be
where the
released.
offense took place, or where the person resided
Where the
prior
person
to the
resided from
crime?
prior.
Okay.
Okay. So, in order to do that, we know of 2 placements that are going to be coming soon. You have to identify places, you have to form a committee and identify potential placements in the communities in Door County for these individuals to come back and be able to rent or have a place to live. So we had to form this committee today to do that. And I believe that probably a number of communities may be contacted as potential spots for these individuals. So when you hear about it in the community, as you probably will, or hear it in the media or whatever, that's what's going on. People have to be allowed to return to the community from where they came. They can no
Well, that
longer-
makes a lot of
You can no
sense.
longer make a big
It
circle and
does.
say
What-
nobody can live there.
What defines community, though? Is it the village? Is it the county? Is it what's the definition of community?
Depends upon where the offender comes from.
Yeah.
So until you know who the offender is,
Mhm.
you don't know what that definition, but we do know that potentially there's 2 that came from the county that are going to be released, so it'll be somewhere in the county.
Yeah, okay.
We don't know
But
where yet.
why do you have to determine if state law has changed and they have to be released to where they came from?
They're normally, these particular individuals are normally, and I'm not on public safety, so I don't have all of this, okay? I have enough to,
Enough information to be dangerous?
correct. Okay. Enough information to potentially give you misinformation.
Okay.
Which I don't want to do. As I understand it, these are people that are monitored, okay? So they have to be in some place where they can be easily monitored
Oh, okay.
and located, okay? They have to be able to report to individuals, parole officer, whatever, and be monitored continuously,
Okay.
okay? And as such, everybody in that area around them has to be notified. And as soon as the community or neighborhood is notified, everybody says, nope, not my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Well, they took away the nope, not my neighborhood option, and so instead, they now allow you to predetermine where potentially some of those locations can be in a community.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a heads up, and they're giving you an option to try and figure out potentially what you could do. I
You'll
think I
make a
got
lot of
that-
friends drawing those
Right,
circles.
I think I got that mostly right. The other thing that was passed today was a resolution for a constitutional amendment to allow limits on campaign contributions in conducting a non-binding statewide referendum. Denise had asked me about this prior to the meeting. We had, Dan Powers was here last month and asked if we would consider putting it on a future agenda. I wanted to have a discussion about that tonight, and we will when we get down to the agenda item on matters to be placed on a future agenda referred to committee, official, or employee. We can have that discussion then. But the board did pass it today. So I think that makes 15 municipalities or townships in the county. And then the county today, and I think that makes 8 counties.
Was it unanimous?
It was not, it was 19-2 vote.
Okay.
And that's primarily it. when you do the organizational meeting, it's quite interesting because you elect a chairperson, a vice chair, the highway committee is elected, then all the committees elect, several of the committees elect their own chair and then vice chairs. And a lot of it is run by state statute. When you look at the county, out of the $77 million budget, like $46 million of it is provided by the state. And so the state has mandates, guidelines of what you have to do. Let me give you, for instance, with, they have Land Conservation Committee, LCC, and they also have Ag and Extension Committee. So Ag and Extension has to do with farmers, their property, et cetera. LCC has to do with soil and water conservation, water quality, et cetera. Because those two are often very closely intertwined, you can have 5 people on the on the Ag and Extension Committee and 4 people on the Land and Conservation Committee, but 2 of them have to be on both. Okay, so there's crossover. And then you have to appoint a chairman of one of those, and one of those is an elected chair on the other committee. So, you know, that all happens on today, so, anyway.
It's actually very interesting
It
sitting
is.
through it.
It is, right, to sit in the audience and listen is probably interesting. Okay, that's all I have for now, unless you have any questions. Review of the financial statements and consideration of a motion to approve the monthly bills. Start on page 91. I'll make a motion, we approve the bills in the amount of $1,119,071.35.
Second?
Discussion?
Motion for discussion?
No,
Yeah,
we
we'll
make a
go
motion
through it.
first, then we have
Okay.
discussion.
We'll go
Okay. Discussion?
I got a couple questions, Dave, just trying to figure some of this stuff out,
Okay.
coming on board.
Okay.
Card member service, and what I'm showing is 92 off of the Zoom, I believe.
Yep.
Okay, so page 92, okay.
Admin interviews, $137.92. What do we have to pay money?
Dave and I interviewed candidates.
Oh,
So-
okay, so that was for, as if it was a meeting or something.
Well, it was paid for meetings, we were
Okay.
paid for mileage. We
Okay.
did Skype interviews using the
Okay.
county.
I just was wondering what it
video
was,
to
that's
do
all.
right.
Resale items, logo shirts, is that stuff that we sell
For
through?
the marina?
That would be through the marina.
Okay, excellent. And then in charter communications, internet for the marina, $249, cable TV, $85. Is that, are we actively using that stuff during the winter in the marina?
You're not necessarily, should I maybe respond to this here,
We
but
got a discounted price when we signed up for the new service last year, but we couldn't not use the service, but we had to keep it.
Just
year-round.
stay active.
Okay.
Can't be
we had-
seasonal, you have to keep it year-round.
Right, we also had to beef up our charter access due to the Wi-Fi upgrade, so.
But
Okay,
it's exponentially cheaper than it used to be. We don't provide as much
Right.
service at each station, but it's better.
and,
Yeah, Pat goes down and uses the Wi-Fi.
Absolutely.
that explains it, that explains it. On 93, Door County IT Department. On April 5th, printer password issues, Parks computer, it looks like they did computer work, and then there's an administrative fee. They're
We-
charging us to do the work for us?
We
or-
contract with the county IT department to be our IT support right now. So the administrative fee is part of that contract.
Okay. The only other question Dave, now, are we,
What page?
actually, I got a general fund page question, that's not, is that separate?
You can ask him.
Okay. I was just curious on the, what would be page 100 on the Zoom, general fund, intergovernmental revenue. I see for the period actual and year-to-date actual, virtually no activity, but budgeted amount. Is that something that doesn't get billed normally until later in the year, or?
Those are things that come in at specific times during the year. Quite a few of those will populate in July, and then we'll get the remainder of it in September and October.
I got you.
They have really specific
timeframes, and almost all of those, we will have 100% down to the penny,
Okay.
so.
But the budget starts January 1, so it sits there at
It's gotta be
zero.
there.
till-
Okay. The only other question I have would be on page 102 of Zoom, under recognition. We've got a budgeted amount, but no activity in there so far this year through the first 3 months. And I'm wondering if there would be any interest among my fellow trustees to see to it that some of that budgeted money for recognition would be used at some point in the near future here to provide some sort of pizza lunch or otherwise lunch for the village employees who have been doing a tremendous job this year, not just with the snow removal and all the extra effort that they're putting in with that, but everyone working in the office and all the slack that they've picked up, additional responsibilities they've picked up with Zeke being gone. I don't know how you guys have
Rob,
used that account in the past.
Personnel had long conversations about that, and that has, there is a certain amount of money for them to do that when appropriate. We don't have to budget anything.
Okay. All right.
In general, in the 51,000s there, that would be recognition that's generally pays for something at the board level or an employee retirement kind of
Okay.
thing.
Thank you.
So there is an expectation of those funds to be used this year.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm good.
I asked Tasha all my questions earlier.
She kept me on the phone for like 3 hours.
You got off easy.
Thank you for
I
sharing.
tried.
I think we have an employee award. Okay, we have a motion, and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. We will go down, I'm sorry, report of village administrator on village activities and projects.
Okay, well, there's a number of development agreements that are kind of in the works. A draft of the development agreement for the Goki Bay Shore Drive condo hotel project was included in the packets. That's going to be taken care of, those revisions will be made. Sarah Anderson and her attorney will be meeting with Denise and I believe, is it April 30th?
Yes.
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah.
It's a Monday.
To discuss her development agreement. The draft of the development agreement for the
Is she physically coming up here?
Yes.
Yeah. The draft of the development agreement for the Pre-3 Quarry project has been forwarded to Attorney Joe Goldberger, and he's working with the village attorney on some revisions that he would like to see made to that one. Verge Timmy recently submitted all the required paperwork for Gustavo Gallardo's Inn project on Mill Road down here. And so I'm going to be starting working on that development agreement, so that hopefully will go to the Plan Commission in May. Then you guys dealt with the questions that Chris Schmeltz have. As far as the other project of Al Golke's, the Mill Road West project, progress continues to be made on that. Brett Gillett, the building inspector, did prepare occupancy permits for the 2 residential units. The Plan Commission is working very hard on reviewing and recommending revisions to the village's existing parking regulations. The initial work session was conducted and was very productive. And there's work sessions scheduled for Tuesday, May 1st at 5:30 and Tuesday, May 8th at 6 p.m. Board of Review is going to be conducted at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, May 8th. If anybody wants to come to open book, that's going to be conducted from 3 to 5 on Saturday, April 21st. The village hall was not accessible for a while, and the reason for that was the guys were working on refinishing the floor. It's all done now and it looks very nice. The hiring committee is continuing to work on administrator replacement, and interviews were conducted for seasonal parks department employees. To date, 3 individuals have been hired. One is going to be starting in about a week. The other one started midway, and then the third final will start in mid-June when he's out of school. So that's about it.
I would like to bring up the Board of Review for everybody's edification and for yours, Rob, so you know, the board of review is a meeting of the board. We have to be there for 2 hours minimum. It starts at 6 o'clock, it adjourns at 8. If we have no cases before us, we still have to be there for 2 hours. Okay? We can't conduct other business, like you can't hold simultaneous meetings. We have to be in session as a board review for 2 hours. So just FYI. And we won't know if we have any cases for a while. After the open book is when they... Okay, that's all I have. Any other questions to report?
There were also reports from the marina manager, the facilities manager, and the utilities director in the packets, if anybody's got any questions about them. Amy's here and so is Mike.
Amy or Mike, you want to review anything?
I'm just hoping to open sometime soon.
I noticed the ice went out, but it came back.
Well, and I don't know if you noticed how high that water came up. I'm a little concerned about that corner by the boathouse again.
Steve and I were looking at that today.
Oh, did you get in there? I thought, I'm not trudging up there. Really deep, but,
Keeping an eye on it.
Yeah.
So my car is on standby, or crew's on standby, so we're pretty much at the top of the list to get things going as soon as we can.
What's the level? Are we
high,
record?
Yeah.
record high, yeah,
It is?
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And January is low, July is high, so they figure it could be another 6 to 18 inches higher in July than it was in January. Because you have the spring thaw,
Yeah.
spring showers,
Yeah.
and that brings the lake level up. Evaporation usually takes place in the,
Latter part.
right. So, we'll see.
We're gonna have to get buoy markers to mark off the dock
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
right.
the swim
You
platform.
know where
so.
to walk.
Well, I think there are gonna be some additional swimming area to
Yeah.
divert the few boaters that have been dropping off guests on the swim dock.
Yeah, yeah.
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 Yes, there will be.
Yeah.
Okay? Mike, anything you want to add?
Not unless anybody has any questions. I guess our biggest thing going on is the main lift station. They're progressing. All the inside walls have been torn down and they're going to be torn down. You can see it go by it, there's holes cut in the outside walls, and they put a new door in, and vents for the new generators.
So I forget now, Mike, that the footprint of the building, is that enlarging in any way? No, okay.
Everything will be the same size, it's just in, on the interior, we had a generator room that was separate.
Mhm.
And now that, and then it was the original office
Yep.
from 72. Now that's just one big room,
Got it. Okay.
otherwise it stays the same structure.
Tasha, do you have anything you want to add from the finance perspective?
We're not out of money yet? We're not out of money yet?
You're not out of money yet. As you saw with financials, everything's moving right along, so financial statements should be out in May.
All right, we will skip item 15 and go to committee reports. We'll come back to item 15, all right? Okay, first committee, admin has not met. Admin and compensation oversight has not met. ComTech,
We are having some challenges with the county and having the county get work done in a timely manner, so we're investigating some other alternatives. We've directed staff to go ahead with switch over to new email server. We should be getting surfaces along with the new email, and that email is going to be hosted on Google.
Well, I had two questions. One is, what is Google for Gov in the minutes?
It's a email document platform.
Oh, okay. And surfaces have been purchased?
they're going to be purchased.
Yeah, they're going to be purchased.
So we're going to get them a lot sooner than we actually anticipated, because at one
But-
point,
Oh, we're gonna
But-
buy, yeah.
We're gonna wait till the email's set up, so when they're handed out, they already have email configured with them on the
Okay.
new email
They work.
settings.
they work, okay. All right.
And we can talk about this a little later, but we may have to slow down the email part.
And that replaces the Zoom.
Oh,
There's other hooks in there.
Yes,
I thought about that.
yeah. Okay. And I've been having discussions with the county too.
okay.
Mainly, we have a contract,
Yeah.
and we're having problems with the contract. So I'm trying to address some of the problems we're having with the contract. I'm not saying that we'll continue, the contract has expired, and they're asking for a month-to-month, okay? And so, based on our last ComTech meeting that we had last week, I asked some questions, so I'm waiting to hear back on the answers to some of those questions. And hopefully, they'll still be able to help us out sooner, but allow us to do what we want to do with google.gov or whatever the case may be. Coastal byways. That would be
Kathy?
the minutes are in the meeting, in the packet. DCCD.
Caleb announced his resignation last week. He's resigning after the annual meeting.
He announced he's running for state senator.
Yeah, he's running for state senator.
Caleb, the new
Right. So,
Yeah.
months he's been there?
16.
16
yeah,
months.
it's actually been almost a
To
year and
to
a half.
Caleb's credit, in the meeting it came up that nobody had any idea of Caleb's political affiliation until this announcement. So he stayed pretty apolitical, but it was felt that he didn't think it was good for the organization to stay on.
Okay.
Economic development has not met. Finance has not met. Fire,
Has not met,
fire district.
has not met, ever.
Historical district. Historical society.
Well, let's see here, see if I remember all this. March 1st meeting, new building update, discussed that. Spring social, May 10th, spaghetti dinner at the Village Hall. Set some dates for some of the activities this year. Opening day of May 25th. Farm market starts the 26th. We'll participate in the rummage sale, garden walk, ice cream social, all those dates were set. And then the April 5th meeting, we're getting the site cleaned up out there, and that was about it, relatively short meeting. The new building that's going in, Pat Mangan's been in the hospital, so he was doing some architectural work for us, so that's kind of slowed that up a bit.
So, could you please ask them to get us copies of those minutes? I know we've asked before, and I don't mean to
I
be a
think
pain.
I think they gave them to you 1 month.
Yeah.
And then they went on strike again.
Yeah. So, otherwise, if you could
They
get
think,
me.
they think I'm a spy.
Oh. Otherwise, if you could give me a copy of your minutes, then I'll just put them in the
Okay.
folders.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Holiday lighting has not met. Library would be Kathy, I believe minutes are in here. Marina and Marina Fest.
Marina, well, you heard from our manager a little while ago, if you have questions, she's here. I think we've been working toward doing some refurbishment work, but we looked into, and the possibility of grant sharing is available, so that may get pushed off a little bit, but we're gonna try to apply for that. So,
Great.
Just, who else is on Marina? You, Chad?
I wasn't
Okay,
there though.
the three of you. I talked to Amy earlier because when I was reading the minutes and you were talking about creating the parking and reconfiguring and striping and all of this other stuff, and because the parking committee has been revived through the plan commission, as Janelle stated earlier, we had a really good first meeting and a lot was accomplished, and it was some definite direction. And so there are preliminary numbers that I shared with Amy that the marina needs, not only for the marina, how many berths you have, how many ramps you have, and the commercial businesses run out of there, and I told Amy that it's 134. So just as you continue that parking conversation, I thought I would, at least give you a number.
Okay. And that's a total number, whether it's
That is-
individual
that-
cars,
So that's a-
trailers?
That's a
whether
number
it's-
based on our current
No, this is based on what's being
development.
proposed. Now, so it's the employees in the kiosk, it's the employees in the marina itself. The current code is very specific for how many ramps and slips we have, so that's a set number. What's new is the amount of slips for Sister Bay Boat Rental and Saildor County. And when Robert E. Lee had done the calculation, I didn't notice it until today, but they had it at the old slips, which was 110, and we're at 150 now. So that went up. And it also did say in the village's code, under the marina, that at least 20% of the parking spaces needed to be double, which I think we're well over that anyway, of what's required
For trailer.
for trailering, yeah. So just moving forward, I thought you'd want to have that information. I'm not saying that that's set in stone, nothing has been adopted, but that's the area you're going to be in.
So it's all compact parking now?
Those dirt piles are gonna have to be moved. Shuttle service.
Ooh, okay, and there's a good question. So we have the auxiliary lot, more than 48 hours we're supposed to go out. Zeke apparently had a contractor put piles of dirt over what was our auxiliary parking. And so Steve was out there and he said, there's very little. We've had already one customer, and I went out there too, and probably 2/3 of the area that used to be, you could drive in with trucks and trailers and pull around and find spots. Now you do that with 3 or 4, and you're gonna come in and go, how am I gonna turn around and get out of here?
And what's the dirt for?
Good question.
Oh, Janelle?
Sledding
Marina
hill?
was
We
never-
don't know.
Yeah, Marina was never asked. We
So
don't know
Sturgeon
what
Bay
it's
has dirt
for.
piles, now Sister Bay has dirt piles.
Right.
It's an
So
outbreak.
I don't know if the village has a use for it, a desire for it,
Is it dirt or is it rocks?
It looks like dirt.
I went out in the winter, so it's like snow covered and whatever, so I don't know.
We can make Mount Lino taller.
Yeah.
I think it is remnants from construction of something downtown here. And it was, the only thing I could think of is sledding material, hill material, but I don't know.
Could it have come
The
from
parking
the
lot?
bulky for the parking lot?
Anything's possible. But so it's one of those things, depending upon where they,
Yeah.
well, regardless, we would like to see that if somebody has a use for it, move it,
Yep.
or
You could sell
maybe
it.
to spread it, or, right, make a
Sell
deal
it.
with a,
Let's figure out who put it there and then we'll have them.
well, anyway, depending upon parking, whatever else, the marina may come back with a request of the village to help with cost, if it costs us money to get rid of that.
That should come out of Zeke's pocket.
Yeah. What's on the
I'll
bill?
agree to
The
that
water-
motion.
I asked the utilities permission to dump that there at the time, they
Oh.
did, and that's utilities property.
Oh,
So that's why they were given permission to dump there.
got it.
But,
And do you know what it was from, Mike? What?
well, some of it came from the building on the corner, some of it came from the sewer and water excavation that was done. And I think the thought was to keep it if there was a useful project in the village,
It was available.
it was available.
Okay.
Not as bad as it looks. It wouldn't take long for somebody in there with a bulldozer.
Bulldozer.
And a mosquito.
Okay.
Maybe we can jazz up the disc golf course. Okay. Parking, we should probably take
Oh,
that.
Marina Fest, our meeting Thursday.
Parking, we should probably remove that as a committee
Yeah.
at our
Correct.
next meeting when we go through rules of order. Okay?
Okay.
If you'll note that.
Yep, I did.
Parks has tried to meet. has not been able to be.
You know Sharon's part of this too, right? You know,
That's right.
her.
That's why it's all on the agenda. Personnel.
I told Heidi earlier that in the minutes that were in the packet, I forgot to tell her that you were there, Dave.
Okay.
So she was just going to amend that.
Plan Commission.
We're tired.
Do we need any explanation?
We passed it all on to the board?
The Tide Death March.
The minutes are there.
But at least we met,
Yeah.
unlike some other committees.
SBAA. That was Kathy.
Yes.
Tourism Zone.
That was a packet all within itself.
Utilities.
Minutes are in the packet. Mike covered things, so I think we're good.
Okay, that's the end of the committees. So, consider a motion to convene an executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statute.
Do you want to go
Oh,
back to
I'm sorry,
item
you're right,
7?
you're right, I'm sorry. Which item was that?
7.
Since Mr. Schmeltz is here, we have an opportunity to go back up to item 7 and have a discussion about what we discussed. Okay. So let's go back up to item 7, Jekyll Management. Page 77.
Basically, Chris, we needed a lot more information.
Okay.
Well, maybe as background, the local, there was a lot of confusion over the last development there with contractors parking, and so we'd like to try to contain it, I think, better this time.
Yep, okay. So the background would be, we're looking to just get in, do site work, to try to get the building under roofing for, something like this happens, to get 20 inches of snow. So it's just allowing time to do work as much as we can, to then get it to a state where we can get a fence around it so it's not a hazard during the fall fest. So there's 5 weeks there that we're asking for, just, to be honest, I'm not sure exactly what we'll get done, but just to try to get as much, of those site work issues that we can in that amount of time.
Okay.
Anything that we stage there would come off and be, be gone, so we obviously want to keep it clean and make sure it's not a hazard. That's obviously, number one priority, come fall fest.
Okay, so we had a couple of issues that came up.
Sure.
Fall Classic is September 15th,
Okay.
which is a bicycle ride of between 800 and 1,000
Yes.
bicyclists. It's in the
Yes.
waterfront park. They
Yeah.
use Mill Road in and out, up and down Fieldcrest and Woodcrest for their ingress and egress.
Got it. That is, well, we wouldn't want to be interfere with that at all. for
So
sure.
we want to make sure that Mill is not obstructed or is cleaned up prior to.
So maybe it would be after that, so it would be September 17th, those last 2 weeks of September. and the
Well, before you give that up.
Oh, sorry.
They came up with a solution if it works for
Okay,
you.
sorry.
Yeah, hear it all out.
Okay, and then the other issue is Columbus Day weekend, which is a 3-day weekend, is one of the biggest, if not the biggest weekends up here for us. And that is Friday the 5th through the 8th of October. It's the week before Fall Fest. So we would also want to make sure that that is free and clear. So what we had proposed, or was going to talk to you about, was,
Monday through Thursday. So Monday, September 4th through Thursday, October 3rd. Would that work?
It'd
But
probably be
only 4
Tuesday.
days a
Tuesday.
week.
Tuesday that week, because that's Labor Day.
Oh, yeah. So Tuesday, September 4th, but then after that, it would be Monday to Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're asking for what we can do, and that makes perfect sense.
You talk about, removing the equipment. I presume you would mean like at the end of the week or something like that, so it's not sitting there. We don't know how you're going to get that equipment onto the lot and off of the lot, and what will you be driving over on our new parking lot? So I think we have some concerns about that.
And if you knew if there's a way to keep the equipment on the
Grass.
grass as opposed to sidewalks and parking lots, that we can maintain the parking that's there?
Right, yes, okay.
Any idea on how many contractors will be coming on a daily basis? How many vehicles will be transporting them and where they intend to park when they're here?
What their license plate numbers are?
Social Security registration.
So that's all things we'd like you to work with the plan commission on within your development agreement.
Exactly, I was gonna say exactly, so just about what our options are, and in terms of, I'd be lying if I said how many folks we need there.
At all costs, we want to avoid the issues that we had on Mill Road
Yes,
when the chop was put up.
right.
And another thing was all the dirt clumps on the road. You could have your contractors not do that.
So don't do anything when it's wet, rainy, muddy.
Get it all done.
Snowy.
Yeah.
Lay some carpeting down.
There you go.
So, yeah, I guess that will all be in the development agreement, but at least we had a chance to discuss, and thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, plan commission?
Yes. Where are we with the other 3 items, Chris, that you need to get approval for?
We are in the process, Janelle and I spoke, last week, and it was too fast to get to this meeting, so we're gonna go for the next.
For the May meeting?
Yes.
We'll have it then?
Yes.
Okay, so that means, okay. Then it would be a push for the development agreement in June, wouldn't it?
Well, a little bit, but Chris said what he's gonna try to do is get it to me as soon as possible. And if we can, we'll get it at one of those work sessions.
Okay, all right.
So then that would avoid that.
Sure, okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
Wait, and you wrote down then all the things that the board's willing to concede in the development agreement? Okay,
Yep.
all right, thank you.
Both of them?
So the equipment has to be off-site on the weekends.
Where the contractor is gonna park, we didn't talk about, but we just
Yeah.
don't want to where they were before, and then the dates. And did we wanna change, I mean, we're talking about big equipment here, did we wanna change any hours of operation? If we're allowing this to start earlier? Right now it's 7 to 9,
PM.
yep.
What do you envision? Mostly excavation? You hope to get concrete even that far, or like?
You know, to me, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
We're still in preliminary stages, so that would be great, but,
Yeah.
that might be aggressive, especially since we'll have to get it's only 4 days.
Yeah.
At least utilities.
Yeah, utilities and excavation. Yeah.
Let you work on that one.
And then I guess, sorry.
Okay.
And I guess I would say something about removal of equipment. We said removal of equipment by weekends. I don't know that we necessarily want to require that.
Oh, I don't think so either. If they can keep it
If they
on
can
the
keep it
grass
on there,
area.
yeah.
Right,
Within
try
the
to
confined
maintain
area.
as much
Right.
parking
Yeah.
as possible, keep it in
Exactly.
the
And instead
building
of pulling in
site.
and out all the time,
Right,
that's
right.
Right,
causing more issues.
yes, I agree.
Or dirt.
Do you
We really
go
want to
for
sit not in the
Mount Vest or
parking
no?
lot.
Yeah, as much as possible, right.
If he's gonna
Maintain
fence
the
that.
existing parking for parking.
Louise?
Chris, one quick question, when you're excavating, do you think you'll be doing a lot of excavating close to the sidewalk on 42? The reason I ask is because we have 4 booths in Fall Fest that go on the grass there, and they're large. So I need it, it doesn't, they don't have to be pretty or anything, they just need to be level. So that's like primo space. and the VFW would be very upset.
Yeah, I mean, if you could just put on, maybe on the site plan, and just look where those.
It's just right along, I'll show you, it's right along 42 there, as long as they're level, I don't think it'd be dirt, it doesn't make any difference. It just, I'm not sure what.
That's right where utilities are gonna go, isn't it? You can do what you wanna do, but you may be asking for a lot if that's what you're gonna be doing, is site prep and utilities. And when you say dirt, you know, if now it's clumps and rocks.
But there, I mean, VFW has a 20-foot booth. And so does.
Now's a good time to find another spot.
Right.
It's a construction zone.
I know it sounds trivial, but, you know,
Right, but
it's a big deal.
at that point in time, it may no longer be village property.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, well, I don't know where I'd put them. I don't know if it's supposed to put them.
Well, it might be in the middle of a construction zone, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, I would err on the side of,
Caution, yeah.
I mean, I don't know, you're the builder, but to me, knowing any other project that goes on, once you start site excavation, and that's, I would think, where you're gonna have curb stops or stuff going in for utilities, and that's gonna be a mess, I'll
I thought I
betcha.
have to worry about this next year, but, okay. Well, we can try to figure it out, but there's four, and one who's a VFW, has been there for millions of years. Veterans are four and more, you're gonna move the veterans to four and more.
Good try, though. Okay, we gotta keep going. We gotta keep going.
And the other question
Work it
would
out.
be, just mention, where are we gonna park? Maybe turn that question away, where do you want us to park? Maybe just put that on there as well. Would be helpful, just so we can tell people where.
Sure.
Okay.
Fish Creek.
I was gonna say Ephraim or Elsa Bay, but good idea.
Actually, if you wanna move some dirt, we got this spot out by the, it'd be a great spot for you. That's right. Ooh, there, maybe.
Well, they got a lot of fill to put in that parking lot.
Yeah. We got dirt for you.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be the least impact to have them park east of Spring Road on Mill?
Okay, we're gonna work that out at your plan commission meetings.
Okay.
Anything else for Chris?
Are you intending then to leave all the work vehicles on the site then until later in October after you?
We're gonna work that out in the development agreement.
Okay, all right.
Okay, we're gonna go down to item 18. Discussion regarding matters to place a future agenda referred to committee official or employee. We may also go back to the one after we come out of closed session, we don't know. But for the moment, let's bring up the question about the United to Amend resolution. Dan Powers was the gentleman who was here at the last meeting in public comment, spoke about asking the village if they would
Oh, yeah.
sponsor a resolution, United to Amend, which is to, I'll get most of this again. They're asking for a constitutional amendment by the state of Wisconsin to hold a non-binding referendum to sponsor a constitutional referendum to change the Supreme Court ruling that corporations and money is speech, and to try and eliminate a lot of the money, big money, what they refer to as dark money, as being in politics. Okay, the super PACs, unions, et cetera, that can spend unlimited funds, or individual wealthy donors that can donate unlimited funds without saying where it came from necessarily. You see all the ads on TV for all the politicians, et cetera. So there's a group that has gotten, I think it's 15 of the local townships and villages. That's right, it's one set of it. I have a whole packet
Oh,
here that's
okay.
about this thick, okay? There's 200 and some, or other communities within, or 170 communities within Wisconsin that have also signed these things, sponsor these resolutions. So they're asking us to put on our agenda a resolution. I have a copy of the resolution. He'll provide more copies of the resolution. To ask the state of Wisconsin to do a non-binding referendum to allow citizens to vote, to decide if they would like to ask the state to sponsor this, to do a constitutional convention at some point in time, to sponsor an amendment to the Constitution to change the financing concerning campaign contributions. Okay? This was, if you remember, there was the Feingold McCain thing, the Supreme Court back in the early 2000s changed that, said that free speech is money, or free speech is corporations, it's not just individual, okay? So you'd have to have a constitutional amendment to do that. So that's what they're asking us to sponsor. The county board did pass it today, and all these other municipalities have also in the county. There was one township elected not to put it on their agenda, which is fine. This group considers it a nonpartisan issue. When referendums are held or passed in counties or villages or towns or municipalities, they pass usually 70% plus. They pass by significant amounts. So I think everybody agrees there's too much money in politics. The question is, what do you do about it? So that's what the discussion is. If you'd like to have it put on the next agenda, we can put on the next agenda, we can discuss it, do a vote if you'd like.
Do you want a motion? Or just general consensus to
Just
put it
general
on the agenda?
consensus if you want it on there or not.
Yeah, put it on there.
Sure. Let's do it,
Okay.
yeah, let's do it.
Okay, then we'll put it on the next agenda.
Okay.
All right, I just wanted to cover that in public. Okay. Okay, consider a motion to convene an executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851G to confer with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or likely to become involved. Wisconsin statutes 19.851E to deliberate and negotiate the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conduct other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Motion by Lino.
Second?
Roll call. Lino, yes.
Berto, yes.
Duffy, yes?